to Faith, Love, and Therapy, a podcast to encourage and inspire. I'm your host, Jamie Johnson, a licensed clinical social worker working in the field of mental health for the last 10 plus years. I am focused on mental and spiritual wellness, and I'm grateful that you have joined me as we peel back the layers of mental health from a faith perspective. If you'd like to connect with me, you can search Faith, Love, and Therapy podcast on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I am there. Well, thank you so much. As we enter into this episode 44, I thank you for joining me and for the patience that you've had with me during the break that I have taken. That was so needed. I pray that all of you are well. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I learned and some of the things that I realized during this break for myself. And prayerfully, they're helpful, but also things that you can take away and explore for your own life and your own mental wellness. So one of the things that I, identified, or that the professionals in my life helped me identify, was I was dealing with some pretty significant burnout. And so my own therapist, along with my physician, acknowledged and told me to acknowledge that I was struggling with burnout. And so I had probably been in that space for a couple of months, and I was just pushing through. And the challenge is, I think a lot of us struggle with burnout and we push through. We are a culture that is conditioned and trained to push beyond, to not stop, to not give up, to not even rest. And so I was pushing through and I needed a break. So I took Mental Health Awareness Month. I took May and tried to take some time for myself. And some of you also know that I'm in seminary, so there was a short break where I could take a little bit of a rest and tend to myself. And so for a few of those days, I was very intentional about resting. Some of us, resting means that we're still doing something. We're still tending to certain responsibilities, but we are trying to take it easy. I think we take it easy more than we rest. And so on some of the days, I made sure that I stayed in the bed longer, or I went back and got into the bed. And this helped me to really start coming down physically within my body. And as I was doing that helped me to gain some clarity. It helped me to rest, helps you to see things clearer, to start to think about things in a different way. And so some of the things that I realized, one was that I was really dealing with a lot of frustration. And there were several things that I was frustrated about and really needed to process and really needed to work through. And that frustration was just kind of being pushed away or rationalized or just kind of suppressed for my own benefit, maybe for others' benefit as well. But I was feeling a lot of frustration. And so I really had to sit with God with the things that I was dealing with and call out the struggles that I was having. And the frustration was, things from the past, which we tend to trip over because we don't desire to deal with them, or we say that they're done and I'm fine and I'm healed and I'm over it. But sometimes things trigger those particular wounds and we have to be able to address them. And so I started thinking about those frustrations and really started to have conversations with God about what I was feeling. And because I wanted to know why I was feeling those things, where it was coming from. And he started to reveal some things and continues to reveal them. I don't think it's over. But acknowledging that there was some frustration and there was some anger and even some bitterness that had not been resolved, and being able to resolve those things would help me to move forward in a lot of other areas. So that was one of the things that my rest helped to reveal, was that part of my burnout was stress and frustration and anxiety, anger, even some bitterness there. And we don't like the word bitterness. I had a hard time when I was talking to my therapist about that particular word, because I was like, I'm not bitter or nothing. And then really there is a root of bitterness in a lot of things that we express, but we don't want to say that that's there. A lot of our hurt and a lot of our pain can lead to a root of bitterness. And so we have to be able to acknowledge those things and begin to dig them up. So I did realize that in my rest and conversations with God. I also realized and decided to acknowledge that busyness is a choice. And for many of us, we feel pressure to do things. We feel pressure to accomplish things, to be successful. We feel pressure. Some of it is self-induced. Mine was self-induced. Some of it comes from external, those in our family, those in our friend group. Some of it is from what we see around us and what we think we should be accomplishing. And so that pressure isn't always something that we're willing to acknowledge, but being busy is a choice. We use busyness in a way at times to validate us, to avoid certain things, or to fill a void. We use busyness to qualify us, to say that we're worthy, to say that we are special, to say that we got a lot going on, whatever we use busyness for. I use busyness as a distraction. And so many people use busyness as a distraction. I got to keep busy. I got to do what I need to do. And so that is something that I really had to acknowledge, is that I don't want to choose to be busy just for the sake of being busy. You know, I am committed to accomplishing the things that God is putting on my heart to accomplish, and the things that he has set before me in order to accomplish. I want to be intentional about those things, but I don't want to be busy just for the sake of being busy. I don't want to volunteer for everything because people think I do things well. I don't want to be everything to everybody. And so I'm choosing not to be busy because that is what is best for me. So that is another thing that I realized during that break. Another thing that I decided was that I wanted to focus on choosing to do things differently. So in this culture that we currently live in, when everything is very social media, focused, everything is what you have, what you create, what you do. I went through a period of time of like, okay, I need to do this podcast, or I need to do the social media page in a certain way, in a way that I was seeing others do it. And I had to say to myself, I don't really like social media that much. Like, I like it. I like to follow certain people that have things that are interesting to say. But the content creation, when I get, wealthy enough to pay AJ to do that part for me, and he can be full-time in this whole media game, I will absolutely do that, because I do not like the content creating part. I don't like the posting and having to do the videos, and not because there's something wrong with it, but just because I am naturally an introvert. And so having to pull and do those things and create in those ways sometimes is draining for me. And I had to really be honest. And so going through the process, even coming back to do the podcast, I'm deciding that I'm going to do things a little bit differently, and I'm not going to be on every platform. That announcement will come when it's time for it to come. But I do see myself doing it differently in a way that God has given me to do it, and not looking to those who may even be doing something similar, because we all have a particular assignment. And I think part of my burnout was getting distracted by everybody else. I had several interviews with amazing women during the first quarter of this podcast, and I loved every bit of it. And it all spoke life into me and helped me to see what I value. And so I value really good conversations. I value talking about things that are useful to people. I value sharing what I know and helping to support other people within boundaries, within very healthy boundaries. I no longer feel the need to constantly be the answer to everybody's problem. And so having the month to just kind of sit and decide what I want this to look like, and I'm continuing to do that. It's unfolding. It helped me to see that I was choosing, or I was more focused on what I was seeing rather than what I'm called to do. And one of the things that I know that I'm called to do is to really help look at the heart of issues, to really look at the root of issues and help people to really start dealing with stuff not on a surface level. I'm not called to do anything on the surface. I am called to deep water, right? And I'm okay with that, because I know that that's an uncomfortable place for a lot of people. But I recognize that that's what I can do. And in the season that I'm supposed to do it, I'm going to do it, right? So focusing on what I am called to do and the assignment and how I'm supposed to do it is something also that I've pulled from this time of rest of, I want to do it the way God has given it to me, right? And I hope that you all, whatever God is giving you, you're choosing to do it in the way that God has given it to you. The other thing, which I've said a couple of times, is choosing to rest. I, during that time, finished Rest is Resistance, a manifesto by Tracy Hersey on Audible. This is not sponsored, but I am sharing this resource because it's an amazing book, and I just listened to it on Audible. I'm sure I'll read it too, but Rest is as Resistance, a Manifesto, is a really amazing take on the importance of rest. And she has what's called the nap ministry. And the nap ministry is not about taking naps, but it's understanding that our rest is an expression of resistance to the grind culture, to all of the systems that keep us wanting to move and having to, continue to be better and beat the next person, or focused on capitalism and materialism. So it's an amazing take on rest. If you have the opportunity to download that on Audible or get the book, I'm definitely saying get the book. She also has a card set that is phenomenal too. But being able to hear that and to read that, the take on rest, also triggered in me what rest is for the believer, right? And rest is an act of faith for us. Rest is being able to say, I trust God to do it. We talk often about having faith, but faith does require us to sit down sometimes. It also requires us to stand up. It requires us to do, but more than anything, it requires us to be and to understand that God is, and he will do it. And so when we rest in him, which we talk about, we sing about, but if we take a personal assessment of how we rest in him, what that looks like, how consistently we do that, I don't know that we all can say that we do that consistently. I know that I couldn't say that I did it consistently. In my burnout, I acknowledge that there would be times where I would be sitting. I'm supposed to be doing work, and hours have passed by because I can't focus. And I was trying to write paragraphs and things for work, work and for school. And I couldn't get it out because I was so tired and I needed to rest, but I was trying to push beyond that. But rest as an act of faith is saying that we believe that God is going to take care of us and take care of every situation that we're enduring. And so my break solidified the need for continued rest. I had already started taking small, little trips and things like that. But just to sit still, just to stay in the bed or the couch or sit on the porch, without an agenda, without a schedule, without needing to do something because we feel like, oh, we've wasted our day. That didn't happen very often. And so I am committing to resting in a way that honors the Father, that says, I trust you with everything that I'm concerned about, everything that I'm supposed to accomplish, everything that you've given me to do. I'm going to rest, and I'm going to schedule it, and I'm going to commit to it. And I'm encouraging you all to do that as well on your faith journey, on your mental and spiritual wellness journey. So these are just a few of the things that I've learned during this period of time. My hope for us, right? My hope for not just believers, but those that just listen, whether you believe or you don't believe. My hope is that we take time to realize that there is beauty in slowing down. It's necessary to actually slow down and to rest and to take time and to take a break. It's necessary because we don't realize what's happening in our body that's causing us to break down. We think it's just something that we ate, which is very important. But, it's my eating habits. Oh, I need to go and exercise. Oh, I need to get out in the sun. But also we need to slow down. We need to take breaks. We need to not be responsible for everything. We need to delegate. We need to trust that God is going to do exactly what he says he's going to do. We need to have faith and rest in that faith. And my hope is that we don't just wait until Mental Health Awareness Month like I did, but that this becomes a practice in our life, a practice that says, I trust God enough to slow down, to rest, to get silent with him, to get quiet with him, and let him show me what I need to see in this season for my life. So just a quick message as I'm coming back to this podcast. I hope you all, again, are doing well. We'll move into some deeper topics, some root issues as we continue along in this quarter of the podcast. But I thank you for joining me in this episode, and I will see you next time.